Hello, I'm Robin Worley, welcome to Lenscraft. Today I'll be exploring the new super resolution feature in Adobe Camera RAW. I want to determine if this is all smoke and mirrors, or is it a useful development in creating larger photography with lower resolution cameras. Let's start by looking at how the new feature works in Photoshop before making some pixel peeping comparisons. For this I'm going to start with a RAW file I shot back in 2014. The camera I used for this was an Olympus EM5, which is a 16 megapixel micro four thirds camera. The first step in using super resolution is to open the image in Adobe Camera RAW. To do this I'm going to drag and drop the RAW file onto Photoshop. Because it's a RAW file, Photoshop automatically opens it using Camera RAW. With the RAW file open you can see the reported resolution in the settings at the bottom. To access the new super resolution feature, I can use the icons over to the right on the interface and click the icon showing 3 dots. I then select the Enhance option from the menu. The alternative is to right-click on the image and select Enhance from the pop-up menu. In the Enhance Preview dialog, you can see the super resolution option. Previously, the only option in this dialog was RAW details. When I select the super resolution option, you can see a preview of a small section of the image which is magnified. This allows you to compare the results, which look quite promising at this stage. We also see an estimate of how long it will take to generate the new file, which is extremely fast. When I click on the Enhance button, Camera RAW generates a super resolution version, saving it as a DNG file. If I select the new DNG file, you can see that the pixel dimensions have doubled. Also, our 16 megapixel file is now almost 64 megapixels. When I zoom to 100% magnification, you can see that the image quality is clearly very impressive. If I was to print this image at 300 dpi, it would produce roughly a 23 by 31 inch print. As you can see, this is extremely fast and easy to use, and the results are impressive. But that's not the end of the story. There are a few things you need to be aware of, so let's dig into those before we go pixel peeping. If you're a Lightroom user, you may have recognised the Enhanced Details dialog, as it's been around now for a couple of years. Despite this, super resolution feature is only available in Adobe Camera RAW. Although I haven't seen anything published, I can't imagine that it won't be available in Lightroom very soon. But something else I noticed in Lightroom is that when I tried to import the super resolution DNG files, it couldn't process them. I had to actually upgrade Lightroom to version 10.2 before it would read the new files. After that, I decided to test super resolution DNG files with Capture One and DxO Photolab. Fortunately, both of these appear to be able to read and edit the new files without problem, so I'm not quite sure what's going on here. The next thing I noticed was that any settings I applied to the original RAW file were carried over to the new DNG file. You need to be aware of this because you may find some edits you make, like sharpening, don't work well with the super resolution version. The next question that comes to mind was, would this feature work well with the Fuji X-Trans files? If you're a Fuji shooter, you may already know that Lightroom doesn't process the RAW files well unless you use the Enhanced Details option. So I decided to try the Super Resolution mode with a RAW file from my Fuji X-T3. If you don't know, the X-T3 is a 26 megapixel camera, but after applying Super Resolution, the files were equivalent of 104 megapixels. And, as with the Micro Four Thirds image we looked at earlier, the detail is excellent. Having established this feature works well, let's compare the results now with resizing the image in Photoshop. For this first comparison, I've processed the Cactus RAW file using Super Resolution, and I'm comparing it to the original image which I've scaled to 200% in Photoshop. Comparing the two side by side at 100% magnification, I can see the Super Resolution version is clearly superior. The cactus flowers are sharper and have more detail. I can also see pixelation in the cactus spines of the resized version, where it's much clearer in the super resolution version. And overall, image quality is just much better in super resolution. Let's now look at a second comparison using a different area of the image. Initially when I glanced at this, I thought the resized version was better, but looking more closely, it isn't. What I was seeing is the sharpening that's being applied by the resizing. If I look more closely at the resized version, it has a lot of pixelation and the spines of the cactus have become more or less thicker. There's also a slight increase in contrast and a colour shift that I'm not seeing in the super resolution version. I then thought I'd compare super resolution with the best resizing software that I've used, which is Topaz Gigapixel. In this third comparison, I have the super resolution version compared with a 2x enlargement made in Topaz Gigapixel using the standard mode. At first glance I would say Gigapixel is superior. It's quite close this time, but I still see pixelation in the cactus spines. That's when I decided to try again using the Gigapixel compress mode, which is useful for noisy images. To my mind, this produces a better result, which is now closer to the super resolution result. After a lot of close inspection, I still think super resolution has the edge. I can see sharper, finer detail, and that seems to have been removed in Gigapixel. The other point to mention is that Gigapixel is a lot slower than Adobe Super Resolution. By the way, if you want to see the screenshots, I'll be putting them on my website for you to download. You'll find the link to this in the YouTube video description. After this, I was wondering how best to take the resizing even further. One limitation of Super Resolution Camera RAW is that you can only resize the RAW file once. If you try to use it on a Super Resolution DNG file, it displays an error saying the file is already enhanced. As a way around this, I decided to save the enlarged DNG file as a TIFF. I can then change the Camera RAW preferences to automatically open TIFF files. This allows me to drag and drop the TIFF file onto Photoshop and have it open in Camera RAW. Now I can use Super Resolution option a second time to produce an image that's 4 times as large as the original RAW file. I've also made a 4 times enlargement of the original image in Gigapixel using the compress mode to make a comparison. Looking at the two at 100% magnification, the Gigapixel version looks slightly cleaner and has sharper edges, but it also looks synthetic. There is something I prefer about the Super Resolution image, and it looks much more natural. Checking another area of the image, I see the same thing. I did notice a small amount of colour speckling in the Super Resolution version, but that could be part of the double processing step I had to use. I should also mention it was quicker to produce the Super Resolution image, even though I had to save it as a TIFF in the intermediate step. To give you an idea of the increased size, the image is now 13,824 pixels by 18,432 pixels, which is a 255 megapixel image. Printed at 300 dpi, that's a 61-inch image on the long edge, which is over 5 feet. Remember, this image is from a 60 megapixel micro four thirds camera. I did print a small section of the image on an A4 page and it looks incredible. This is very impressive performance and allows you to produce top-notch large prints from relatively small RAW files. Reading a blog post by the Camera RAW development team, they're already working on enhancements to make the images larger and cleaner. If you're interested in making large prints, you should investigate Super Resolution mode. I hope you've enjoyed this week's video. If you have, please take a moment to share it. And don't forget you can download the comparison screenshots from my website using the link in the YouTube video information. I'm Robin Worley, you've been watching Lenscraft. I'll see you soon for another video.